Hello and welcome to the Rock Shop. Will here. In this video, I will be cleaning and inspecting a container of rocks that I found at the Yellowstone River. Let's see what's in the box.
All right, here is the upper half of this bucket, about 2.5 gallons, 9 or so liters. Here it is.
All right, here is the upper half of that bucket, wetted and ready to be inspected. Maybe part waterline, part clear though too. River will break these up eventually. Every spring, if they get in the river, they will get rolled and they'll get smashed up in the process. Piece of a bigger one. Pretty nondescript, kind of dirty. Clear, bluer. Mild, kind of brownish dendritic features. Nice with the polish. Nice smaller piece of petrified wood. So we'll end up in my terrarium eventually. A lot of hoe stone remains on this one. Pretty rough piece. A little bit on the opaque side. So it'll look better with the polish. Pretty nondescript though. I like the smaller pieces. Take them most all the time. Sometimes the bigger stuff, sometimes not, depending on how nice it is. Kind of like a prairie agate. Might be interesting with the polish. You find these more often in the lower Yellowstone, far less often in the upper Yellowstone, though you will find them on occasion in the upper Yellowstone as well. A little banding, pretty clear. Broken in half, or less, or more. There's the worn side. Another small piece. A lot of hoe stone on this one as well. Primarily hoe stone. But it could look pretty nice with the polish, maybe. Maybe not. Pretty rough, smaller piece. Maybe some manning, maybe not. Fairly clear, kind of the same as the last one, just bigger. Maybe a little clearer. A little darker. Waterline. A lot of hoe stone impressions still. Smaller waterline nodule. Pretty agatized. A little jasperized. That'll probably look pretty nice with the polish on it though. Interesting piece of wood for the Yellowstone. More along the lines of what you'll find in the lower Yellowstone than the upper. Maybe some water lines in there. This would be improved with the polish. Get all that surface junk off. See what's really inside. Definitely a polisher. And another polisher. These smaller agates will fill the gaps in between the large agates when I'm polishing them. Instead of using small ceramic pieces, I will use small agate pieces. Kind of dark, opaque. Might be improved with the polish, might not. Very common piece of petrified wood, common type. As it wears, it becomes darker. When it's a little less worn in the river, it tends to be blonder on the surface and will generally be jet black when you polish it or cut it. A little different. Kind of the same though. Probably not jet black inside. A little more agatized, a little more jasperized. Could be nice with the polish. A little opaque, a lot of surface stone impressions. If cut, may be banded. The majority of what you find in the Yellowstone will be these smaller cobbles. All kinds of varieties and qualities. Should be very clear with the polish. Lots of petrified wood in the lower Yellowstone and upper Yellowstone. A little less agatized on average in the upper Yellowstone than the lower, but still plenty of nice pieces in the upper Yellowstone as well. Looks like a piece of waterline. Little fine banding. Could be very improved with the polish. Pretty rough. You can sort of see into it there. Polish would help clarify what's inside. Soon. Pretty grainy. Definitely looks like a piece of wood. All right. Piece of jasper. First one in the bucket. I have a few in there, not too many. This would be much improved with the polish. Maybe a piece of petrified wood. Very jasperized. Very rough. Definitely needs a polish. Very rough as well. Darker. Perfect size of agate to replace any sort of need for a ceramic pellet. There's so much of this, you might as well collect it. And wear these down and polish these instead of wearing down and polishing ceramic pellets. Few dendritic features, kind of nice. Be nice with the new polish. Nice polished up. Maybe some vein banding. Still some hose stone. A little opaque. Some clarity. Alright, there's a pretty rough nodule. A lot of hose stone impressions. Pretty much all of which are filled with the white, sort of very thin material, thin layer on some of these agates. Probably on most of them. The river will wear off the white layer. This would be interesting with the polish. Polisher. Another small, perfect sized polisher. And another. And another. Could be an interesting banded agate, maybe. Probably some fine banding around the quartz center. That can be very improved with the polish. Exterior rough, a lot of hose stone impressions, some dendritic features. Alright, another classic kind of blonde piece of petrified wood for the Yellowstone. Jet black inside can be pretty nice if there are veins of chalcedony. Chalcedony will contrast very nicely with the black interior of the rock. Kind of an interesting waterline. And some banding. That could be interesting with the polish. kind of the same. Less impressive though. Some fine banding in that one. All right, a jasperized, agatized piece of wood. Some nice banding. Be much improved with the polish. Blown out pocket. Would have been quartz crystals in there once upon a time. Now no more. Cobble. And another. Sometimes these are very nice fine banded agates too. Not all the time, but sometimes. Pretty opaque. Maybe a treasure state. Maybe interesting. Maybe not. Very rough. All right. Another piece of jasper or very jasperized wood. Some calciny veins, not a whole lot. Definitely needs a polish. Very raw piece of petrified wood. Pretty nondescript. Okay. A classic example of a smaller moss agate. Can't see too much from the outside. However, that could be very improved with the polish. All right, here's a banded agate. Could be very improved with the polish. Probably would be. Perhaps a strategic cut. Maybe the polishing does it justice. The banding will often follow the quartz pockets. Not all the time, but most time. Maybe a rough water line. All right, here's a piece of petrified wood. Jasperized. It was a blurry piece, sort of. Can't really see the grain too well, but would probably look pretty nice with the polish. Kind of opaque. Dendrites kind of all over the place. Right, here's a banded agate. Be much improved with polish and or cut. clear. A lot of smaller pieces can be collected if you're inclined to carry them out. Second banded agate there. Most of these are, whether or not you can see it. Sometimes it's pretty faint, sometimes it's a little more defined. Just depends on the piece. Nice smaller piece of petrified wood. Waterline maybe. A few house stone impressions. Little house stone in there still. Alright, here's one with more dendrites on the outside. May or may not be inside. Might just be a clear agate inside. Be nice with the polish though. Another cobble. And another. And another. Darker, a little more interesting. Sometimes these are nice banded agates. These smaller nodules. Sometimes not. Okay, a little more banding on this one. Some color too. Right, here's some significant host stone on this one. Maybe some banding in there. Pretty faint. Classic piece of petrified wood. Blonde, kind of nondescript. Doesn't take the best polish, but with the right veins of calcite can be pretty impressive when cut. This might be a nice banded agate, maybe. Jasperized piece of petrified wood. There's a dark agate. Kind of opaque. Kind of see there what it has. Very dark. Dendritic. Polish first, cut second, maybe. banded jasper. Very rare. Banding might show up better with the polish. Good example of a smaller agate nodule that is nicely banded. You never know. A rough, opaque waterline. Faint banding, very faint. I picked this up because I think it would be nice polished. Jasper agate. Perfect for the polishing. As is this. And this. And some nice banding, looks like. That would be interesting with the polish. Some more banding in there probably than you can see at the moment. Good polishing would help bring that out. Waterline, some dendrites, housestone impressions, inclusions. Right, looks like another waterline. Right, some banding in there. Pretty rough nodule, but pretty clear too. A little opaque. Looks like maybe part of a banded. Maybe. Right, a very jasperized piece of wood. Very nice. Look pretty cool polished up. Looks pretty cool right now. A lot of host stone on that one still. Alright, this is pretty opaque. Definitely needs to get polished to really show what's even going on in this thing, if anything. Piece of jasper. Click it to polish it. See how it turns out. Alright, here's a very dark agate. Pretty opaque. Does it look like inside? Probably a polishing and a cutting to find out. Okay, piece of petrified wood with a lot of chalcedony attached to it. Pretty weird looking piece. Partial limb cast. Some banding. Needs a polish. A classic piece of kind of lower quality wood, at least around here. It's lower quality. Okay, pretty clear nodule. A little bit bluish, some dendrites. Probably some banding. Very faint though. Some more banding. Some of these smaller nodules have really nice banding. Very clear. Very translucent. And some banding as well. Sometimes the dendrites will follow the banding patterns. Sometimes they will not. Definitely needs a polish to see what's going on. Here's a dark agate with some dendrites. Pretty opaque on the outside. Kind of got to get into these ones to see what's even going on inside. Usually cuts required. We're at a nice jasper agate. That will be much improved with polish. Alright, this is very dark. Agate, maybe? So dark it's hard to tell. Polish it first, then go from there. Maybe cut afterwards. Alright, a bigger chunk, pretty grainy. Vein of chalcedony or two. But that would be nice with the polish. Perfect for the polishing. Little banding, very blue. Little host stone, pretty rough. Might be banded. Yeah, I think so. Hard to say with this one. Pretty opaque. It's got some dendrites though, sort of. Maybe some banding. Maybe not. Alright, perfect filler for the bigger stuff. these smaller pieces will get polished as well, in addition to filling the gaps in between the larger ones. Very small banded piece. Very rough, very opaque, a lot of inclusions. Polish may help. Maybe some banding. Kind of the same. Alright, this one has a lot going on inside. How good, how bad, hard to tell at this stage. Poor waterline, some dendrites, good polishing would help. Faintly matted. Pretty opaque, pretty rough. Small banded agate. Another example of a small banded nodule, or it probably would be banded when cut. Could be pretty nice. Not so nice at this stage, but maybe nice once cut. Alright, here are the two last best pieces. A nice banded nodule. Broken, fortunately, but a nice window for polishing and looking within it. Seeing what's going on inside. Be pretty nice. Smaller pieces here hiding. Ooh. Small banded agate. And here's the biggest agate in the bucket, or this part of the bucket. Very rough surface. Definitely needs a polishing. Does it help or not? I don't know. Might ultimately need a cutting as well. Find out eventually. Few dendrites. A lot of bark. Very rough surface. Hides the interior. Thank you for joining me here at the Rock Shop. Hope you enjoyed the content. There's more on the way. Have a good day.